guys, it's Ty with Ty the Dog Guy on the Daily. And I want to talk about dog training commands. Folks get a little bit too hung up on dog training commands, I believe. They get too hung up on, well, a number of things. But let me take you back to a story that, kind of always makes me chuckle as I think about this. I had a client, this was years ago, that they had a Doberman. We were talking about we were talking about training, and they're talking about which commands to use, and I told the dog sit, or I told the dog down, I don't remember. And they're like, oh, no, we're going to train the dog in German. I'm like, okay, that's cool. I've trained hundreds of dogs in German over the years. That's cool. No problem with that. But I was like, okay, cool. How come you're training in German? And they're like, oh, well, she's a Doberman. And they said it kind of like, don't you already know, why we would be doing this? And I was like, oh, okay. And they could tell I was confused. And they're like, well, she's a Doberman, so that means she's from Germany originally, which means she'll understand German commands better. And I didn't laugh at them. I reserved that for when I got back in the car after the appointment. Then I laughed a little bit. Don't think me poor like a bad guy for doing that. But I laughed at them because they thought that there was something genetically inside their dog that made the dog more predisposed to understanding sitz versus sit, Platz versus down. And I'm here to dispel that. There is nothing in your dog's genetic code that makes it easier for them to understand one language over the other. So when people do train in different languages, as I do, one of my dogs, let's see, she's mostly in German, as a matter of fact. My last dog was in Spanish. I've trained dogs in Czech, Russian, Greek, French, Dutch, Portuguese. So I've trained dogs in, a dozen languages over the years. And I can tell you from experience, there's not one that the dog will pick up better or easier or faster than another. Because the commands really don't matter. Now, beyond that is something that I think even a lot of dog trainers disagree with me on. And that's, let's say we're just doing English. But even then, the commands matter very little, because we'll get in situations where, husband says sit and wife says sit down, or vice versa. And you can see the husband getting upset or the wife getting upset, like, no, it has to be sit down, or it has to be sit every time. We can't change anything. And here's the thing. Is it easier for your dog if there's one command, that means one thing? Sure. But dogs are also smart in the sense that they can pick up various words for the same command. Like I was noticing just yesterday, as a matter of fact, my dog, I tell her to lie down in German, I tell her Platz. But I've got another dog here, hey buddy, that I was telling him to down, D-O-W-N, and Chip went right down. The dog that I've never told her down before. And then I was like, oh, that's a fluke. And I noticed it a few more times throughout the day that I would tell him down, and she would just lie down. Dogs can pick stuff up, pretty easily through context, through the body language, through how I'm saying something, things like that. In fact, I've imported dogs from Europe over the years, quite a few, and a lot, probably about 100 from the Czech Republic over the years. And Czech is not an easy language for us Americans to say. And so almost all of those Czech dogs, I've switched them over to a different language, whether it's German or English or something like that. And I can tell you, they can switch like in days. In days, they can understand sit instead of sedni, which is Czech for sit. And they can understand down instead of lechni, which is Czech for to lie down. And so the commands that we give, do you want them to be the same for the whole family and easy for the dog? Absolutely. But don't make it so ritualistic as to say to yourself, okay, I can never tell my dog come on because I taught him come. Say come on to your dog. Or I can never go say lie down instead of down because we only taught the dog down. Or I can only say sit and not sit down, or whatever, don't get so rigid and dogmatic in your, get what I did there? And dogmatic in your following these rules, because your dog is smart, and your dog will be able to pick up other words, and your dog will be able to pick up other contexts. In fact, oftentimes those contexts lend themselves to be more casual, and so the dog understands, hey, when he says go lie down versus down, he's pretty darn serious. Go lie down, he's a little bit more casual. And so it allows for the dog to understand the context of what you're talking about. So like I said, don't get too bogged down in those specifics. It's just gonna, it just gets annoying. It gets annoying to constantly be like, oh, shoot, I said the wrong word, or to get upset with somebody because they said the wrong word. It doesn't have to be like that.